Hello everybody, Janet Urban here, founder of Friends in Film. Welcome to our podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to give you insights that you will not learn anywhere, not in film school, not online, not from anybody, even people on film sets will not know what I'm teaching you because we have studied how to go very fast into the film industry and create a career out of it. And that is what this podcast is about, and that is what the A-List program is about, which is our main flagship program that all these people all over the world are doing to work in the film industry. So enjoy today's podcast, and thank you so much for listening. We're teaching you when jobs come in, because now you're entering into the freelance film world, and it's going to be a bunch of people contacting you, checking your availability, how you assess whether you should take the job, what questions you should ask, and how just to handle that whole thing, what's appropriate, how things go. So we're going to give you a specific example here of a shoot that contacted Omar that had him kind of concerned and what happened with it.
So how far into the future are you typically booked?
Usually it's about 2 weeks. So they're checking my availability for shoots that are happening 2 weeks from today. Sometimes it's a whole month away. A lot of times it's last minute. Are you available on Friday? Are you available tomorrow?
The reason why I asked you that is because I got a text from someone that I didn't know looking to book me 2 months into the future.
2 months?
2 months.
Oh my.
And I thought that was weird because most of my experiences have been like a week into the future. Maybe like the longest was probably like a month.
Yeah. Why did you think it was weird?
Just because it's never happened to me before.
Oh.
And I just didn't think it just didn't seem normal. It didn't seem typical. Yeah, that's why.
Okay. I think that it's somebody that has their dates, and I mean, they could have like they're renting out a certain hotel or something that's available these dates, and then it gives them more time to plan. And I think that it could be a sign of a very well run production. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. With this shoot, asking my availability 2 months in advance, I ask, is there any way I could read the script? What's the budget for sound? And I just let him know that I am available those dates, but I don't commit to it right away because I still wanted to learn more and ask more questions to really figure out what I'm getting into. And so
did you say that in the text, or
I didn't say that? That was what I was thinking. I didn't say that.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's what I do too. When somebody's checking my availability, and I'm like, I don't know this person, haven't heard too much about, so then I'll ask them some questions. I'll ask them, is it union? Is it day shoots? What's the budget? Is it normal budget thing? Can I see the boards? So I'll say that before I say, yes, I'm available. And that's what you did too, because I taught you to do that. Mm-hmm. So you asked him some different questions, which is appropriate. So you asked him,
is there any way I could read the script? And what is the budget for sound? What is the budget for me?
Okay, great. So you're setting up like, I'm going to expect to be paid. So what is the budget for sound? People contact you out of the blue. They might want you to work for free. They don't. You just need to establish right up front that what's the budget for sound. It's a great way of asking it too. So they contacted him for sound on this one, but he also does production design. He's worked in art department. When you get contacted for whatever job it is, you'll always want to ask them, so what's your budget for that?
Oh, I also asked him, is it a short film? He says, yes, it's a short. I will send you the script. What is your email? And we are looking to propose $300.
For the whole shoot or per day?
He just said, we are looking to propose $300.
Oh my gosh.
And then, so.
They need to be more specific than that.
Right.
So then you're like,
exactly,
whoa, what is that? Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then they also asked for if I would happen to have a certain kinds of equipment, mics and a windsock, a wind blimp.
It means you're shooting out in the wind, probably in the
outside.
Desert, or maybe at the beach.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the desert, yeah. And then we jump on a phone call and we are able to ask each other a little more questions. I read the script at this point and I liked the story, but I was concerned because it was a long script. It was 21 pages and we were going to shoot it in 2.5 days. So he asked me again over the phone what my rate was. And I told him $300 a day. He replied like, okay, let me just confirm with my partner that we can swing that.
That's pretty good, $300 a day. So every shoot you're going up.
Exactly. That's my strategy so far.
Good job.
But thanks.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's a way to go. The more experience you have, the more equipment you have, the harder the shoot is too, the higher the budget. And the reason why you went to 300 was because I told you to go higher, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
Why did I tell you to go higher?
Because they'll pay it.
And?
Because they need someone that knows what they're doing.
And if you cannot do the job, you got a high enough rate that you can cover yourself with somebody that's good. When I get called for a job, I'm always thinking about, especially if it's a lower budget job, it needs to be high enough. The rate needs to be high enough so that if I'll do this job, but if I get a higher paying job, it needs to be high enough so that I can cover myself with somebody that's good. If it's too low, I'm not going to be able to find anybody that's going to agree to do that. So when you agree to do a lower budget job and it's out there in advance and you're committing to those days, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is how much they're paying, what the rate is, because you would be willing to commit to it if it's a high enough rate. First of all, you'll feel better about doing the job if it's a high enough rate. And you know that by that time, if you get a even higher paid job, then they're paying a good enough rate that you can cover yourself with somebody good. You would never want to commit to like a far in advance, a really low budget job, because you're like, well, by that time I could get something that's twice as much. And then you'd have no way to cover yourself because who else is going to want to do that job for $150 or whatever it is. So that's why you want to get the rate high enough so that you know, hey, I see the needs of this project. It needs to be somebody that's pretty good. And at this rate, I should be able to find somebody that's pretty good. Now, you don't tell them any of this. It's just the way that you're working your own schedule and the jobs that you're agreeing to.
Mm-hmm. So then when would it be appropriate to find someone to cover you? And how would we go about doing that? Like communicating with the producer that we're going to have this person cover me.
As you're getting closer to the shoot days, and if you're available to do it, then you just go do it. You know, you get a good rate, you're happy with that, it's learning, happiness all around. But if you have another job that comes in for some of those days, and maybe it's a higher rate, now you have a decision to make. You either stick with your original commitment, and this job that's that far in advance, it is a low budget job. You could get a job for twice that amount of money in Los Angeles that's not out in the desert. And it's something to consider because when you're agreeing to do something at a lower rate, then, you know, you're doing a favor for them. And see, there's a lot of gray areas here. If you know the person, then you're really going to want to commit to it. If this person's hired you in the past, then you're going to want to stick to it because you're boning them if you jump off their job. But when it's a lower budget job and it's somebody that you don't know and you get a higher budget, higher rate job that's better for your career, now you have a decision to make. And if you've negotiated a high enough rate with them, then you can cover yourself comfortably knowing that they are taken care of. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's a lot of gray areas. It can seem kind of contradictory, but this is the freelance world. And you have to learn how to play your career right and also take care of other people at the same time.
So let's say I'm booked on a $300 a day job 2 months into the future. Uh-huh. And let's say a month before that shoot, those same dates, I get offered a job for $600 a day, twice the rate. What would I actually tell the producer or what steps should I take? I'm thinking I would find somebody that I know will be able to do the job that's at my level or better than me.
Yeah, you would definitely want to take that job that's twice as much because those connections that are coming from that job, it's really more about the connections than it is about the rate. You know, $600 a day job is much higher level of connections that can also give you a lot more income for this entire year. You know, especially if it's like a commercial or an interview or you're working with a production company that works regularly and they're paying $600, which isn't, you know, it's not out of the norm really, is a better opportunity for you than somebody that's shooting a indie budget film in the desert at a low rate. However, you never know. Because that guy that's shooting in the desert, it could end up be that he's the next hot thing, next Michael Bay. That's the thing, you never know. And that's why that video Zoom call meeting that you did with the guy where you found out about the project was a good idea, because then you can see, yeah, hey, this guy seems like he's pretty good. He's pretty creative. I like the script. He's got some people attached to it. This could end up being really great. So you're really navigating all that information when you make the decision, because you might want to stick with that one and turn down the $600 one. I mean, either way, it's really good. These are good problems to have. So, sometimes you don't know if you made the right decision, and then you have to decide that you're not going to worry about it. You're just going to choose, and that's it. And it's not all about the money. It's about, how do you want to spend your time? Maybe you want to go, one thing I was realizing, that the shoot is 2 months in the advance, and that's also in the desert, and that's when the desert bloom is happening. So that's probably why. Yeah, desert bloom only happens at that time frame. So that could be why.
Wow.
So that's cool. So it might be great to go out there for the desert bloom, work with great people. You like the guy, the DP that's attached is good, and you want it. Maybe you also want to get into indie feature films, and that's going to be your niche. So that's another thing to consider. Oh, this is the line of work I want to do.
Yeah.
Or maybe you don't want to get into indie feature films, and then you get an opportunity that's in commercials, and you're like, oh, well, that's actually where I want to go. So that also factors into it. But having the high enough rate negotiated gives you flexibility.
How would I go about the situation of properly having someone cover me, and when would that be appropriate to do?
When you get another job in that you would love to take, that's before you reach out and say anything to this person, you find somebody good that can cover you. And so you start making some phone calls or text message, and you are drawing from people that you already know that are equivalent in experience and can handle a job like that. And so you'll have worked with them before and see how they work and see how they communicate and know their gear. So that's not hard. I mean, there's so many really great people out there. So you'll find those people. And then once you check their availability and they agree to the rate and they've seen the script, so they know what they're getting into, now you're like, okay, I got a good cover here.
So I find someone. Step 1 is find somebody that I know can do the job.
Yeah.
Step 2 is check with that person for their availability and if they're interested in the project.
Yes.
Okay.
And then once that is a yes and it's a go and they're like, yeah, I'd love to do that job, that's when you contact the producer and you say to them, hey, I was holding for your job, and I'm wondering if there's any way that I might be able to have somebody cover me for your job. And the reason is I got offered a commercial. It's twice the rate, and it's the kind of work that I really do want to do. And is there any way that I might be able to have this person cover me? Now, what you would say then is you describe this person a little bit that you have that's holding. You say, I already have somebody holding. They have their own equipment. They've seen the script. They have the windsock and the other stuff that we had discussed on the Zoom call. They have all that, and they're available for those days, and they would love to do the job. Is there any way that this person can cover me? And so then you let them make that decision. You let them be the good person, like be the good guy and say, oh yeah, totally understand. Glad that you got this other opportunity. And they will always say that. They're never going to say, no, you agreed to my job at the low rate that I'm offering you, even though it wasn't that low of a rate. What questions did you ask to find out if you want to be a part of this project?
Yeah, some of the questions that I asked were, how many projects have you worked on?
I think I would say, instead of how many,
yeah,
I would say, what projects have you guys worked on?
What projects have you guys worked on? Okay.
Yeah.
What project have you guys worked on?
Yeah.
And so they had worked on 2 features and 1 short.
Oh.
Yeah.
Full length features?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. And then you could ask them. So full length features? Oh, where Amazon Prime, or that be interested. See that's something to be interested in. They did full-length features that are on Amazon Prime, and they're good. Oh, you might want to be a part of that. So instead of you being interested in their project, you're thinking about yourself.
Yeah, it was very selfish.
Yeah. About, do I want to spend my time in the desert? Yeah.
This particular project, the way I went about it, it was very self-centered. What am I getting into? What am I gonna get out of it? Instead of what can I provide?
Sometimes we come from that place. And then sometimes we reflect and we're like, okay, what do I want to create here with this career?
On that Zoom call, I wasn't like enthusiastic about working for it. You know, I was more like concerned. So that's another reason why I feel like...
let's talk about that, because that could have contributed to him to say, hey, actually, we're going to go a different direction.
Yeah, I think it did.
Another mistake. Okay.
And
so you weren't enthusiastic when you talked to him?
No, I was just really concerned and like skeptical that this job was going to get done efficiently. I feel like on the Zoom call, it definitely like came across. I mean, like I enjoyed the script. I thought it was a cool story, but I think like
That's
just
something.
the energy behind the way I was talking to them, like I wouldn't want to hire me
because he was putting you on hold for 2 months in advance.
That's one reason why. Because he was putting me on hold 2 months in advance, because it was so many pages to film in such a short amount of time. And
that's what had you concerned.
Yes, and also on our Zoom call, I asked him and the DP, how many projects have you worked on? And the DP told me he had worked on one short film, which is out now, that they were going to send me to watch, which was good. And he had also worked on 2 features. I'm not sure in what capacity. But still, even with that experience, I wasn't sure if this was possible to do. I think I told him straight up. I was like, well, like my main concern is that I don't know if we're going to be able to, or how do you plan on on doing this with so much dialogue in such a short amount of time? And he replied to me that, oh, like we're confident, we've done it before.
This is in person during
the Zoom call.
Yeah, okay.
It wasn't worth it to me for $300 a day.
However, we don't know if your assessment was correct.
Right. Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know. They could have totally had it in the bag, but
Well, I would say we have to look at the scenes, and because the amount of dialogue is not really, you can do a lot of dialogue in a day if it's all in one room. But if it's multiple scenes and a lot of dialogue, then you'd have to break it down by scene. Okay, now we're outside. Now we're in the living room. Now, if it's all in the same house, so that's how you would determine whether you're getting concerned or about something that you should not be concerned about. Breaking down. Okay, so we have 5 pages that are happening in the living room that we're planning on doing in one scene, and then we go to, we're all in the same house. It's with 2 actors. The number of actors, the number of locations within the house, how long they think the days are going to be. Shooting with 1 camera or 2 cameras is another point, because you can sometimes get more done if you got 2 cameras, because you got one shooting on one person, the other one on the other one. Yeah, and then you were right to ask for the experience level of these people, because hey, it's ambitious, and have you guys done stuff like that before? And their response was quite confident, like, oh yeah, we've done stuff like that before. So then you got to believe them. I mean, I would believe them. I'd be like, oh, okay. But you were not, from your level of assessment for the experience level that you're at, you're kind of like, well, I don't know. It seems a little bit much. Now, you could be right. You could be not right. I don't know. I wasn't there. Also part of the process, just trying to figure it all out. More often than not, on these lower budget films, you're right. They are too ambitious. I mean, even on professional stuff, they can be too ambitious, and they have done thousands of shoots. So this stuff happens.
Yeah, like my experience, I've done sound for maybe like 12 short films now, and like 90% of the time, the first shot of the day takes 3 times as long to set up as what was planned. And then they have to end up cutting a lot of stuff later on in the day.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I've had that experience so many times, and that's with like 8 to 10 pages in 3 days. So just, that was what I was basing this off of. If 10 pages is a lot for this level of indie film, then 21 pages, it just doesn't seem like something that I want to be a part of.
Could be great, could not be great. Could be exactly what you need for getting really great at your job too. So when you're starting off, I wouldn't be so picking and choosing of things like that. Throw yourself in the fire, get into difficult situations. This is not about your comfort right now. The mistakes that you make now, then you won't make in the future. So if you only keep yourself on the easier shoots, then you're not going to get exposed to the hard stuff. And then when you do get exposed to it, at a higher level, then you're going to not know how to deal with it or make those mistakes or handle them wrong. Throw yourself in the fire, especially on the lower budget shoots. You don't want to really throw yourself in the fire on the big budget stuff where it can really cost your career. You're going to still learn on the bigger stuff, but you definitely don't want to turn down that hard stuff.
They're going to do it themselves, I think.
What, they're not going to do sound now? They decided they didn't want to pay for sound?
Yeah. Hey, Omar, I wanted to follow up after our last discussion. Looks like we're going to be thinking about using our own equipment this time around. You can open that weekend back up if you had it previously reserved. Thank you so much for offering and being willing to help. We appreciate it immensely. All the best to you.
Oh, well, that's cool too. And that's a really good learning point too, because sometimes you've negotiated a really good rate and that's what you're willing to do. And initially they're like, okay, well, that's good. We got somebody good, and I guess we're going to pay that. And then what happens, especially when you're talking about indie films and low budget projects, they're like, actually, it's going to be pretty simple what we're doing, and I could really use that money for art department, or for another location, or maybe to hire a second camera. I mean, it's their option. It's what they're producing it. So he kind of changed his mind on like, I really don't want to spend that much for sound, and we're going to try to do it ourselves. So they can make that decision, and then that's fine too. So when it's out in the future like that, the best thing is communication. And so he communicated to you as early as he could to let you know, hey, that weekend's free now. So
yeah,
that's really cool.
I appreciated that. That is really cool.
It really is quite a different business, isn't it? It's like, you're actually creating your future through getting jobs in and finding out about them, and then negotiating your rate and deciding whether you're going to do it, and the people that you're going to end up working with, how you're going to spend your time. I mean, it's exciting, right? You find it exciting?
It's so cool. Like, you're actually in charge of your career.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, we're at different levels, but it's cool that I have the freedom and flexibility to pick and choose what I can work on, what I want to work on. And I'm in charge of how much I'm going to get paid. And it's just cool. It's awesome.
I think one of the coolest things is that people get your name from somewhere and they're checking your availability for shoots. Then you go on those shoots and you have these experiences like, oh my God, I grew so much. I learned so much. I met so many cool people. I have so many amazing experiences. I just think that it's just probably the most exciting life that you could have working in the business. And you grow so much over like a year, 10 years, 20 years. You just experience so much. So the purpose of these videos is to set yourself up for that and to know what to expect and to know that, hey, all these emotions that you're feeling, all of this uncertainty that you're having, this is what it is. And it's all worth it. And it's part of having a freelance career in the film industry. Thanks so much for listening. And if you want to take your career to the next level in the film industry, go to friendsinfilm.com/join. That's friendsinfilm.com/join. You can sign up for our mini course, learn about the A-list model, and then you can take it all the way and do the A-list program. So that's friendsinfilm.com/join. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day, everybody.